British Spy Stories. Season 6. Counter-Strike. Episode 1. The moon is low in the sky as Gabby Lane looks across the English Channel. Up here, on top of the cliffs, the wind buffets her face and blows her dark hair, making her brown eyes water. The call from Sir Bernard Mackintosh, head of MI6 Global Operations, had come 12 hours ago, as she was in her flat in Berlin. The news out of the blue was that Alexei Orlov, a senior officer in the SVR, Russia's secret service, wants to defect. Orlov has been visiting London over the last week, and during a meeting over lunch with Agent Talgarth, an MI6 spy posing as a journalist, the Russian had talked about defecting for the first time. Within an hour of that discussion, Agent Talgarth had submitted her report to MI6 HQ. Within another hour after that, the British listening station, GCHQ, had formed a special operations group for all communications concerning Orlov. Sir Bernard had called Gabby in the early afternoon and told her that she is leading on the operation to bring in Orlov. An armoured Range Rover was sent to pick her up and deliver her to Berlin-Brandenburg Airport, where the British Airways London flight was held for her to get on board. Another Range Rover was waiting at Heathrow, with 2 Metropolitan Police outriders, to get her to the MI6 HQ at Vauxhall Cross by 5 p.m. By the time she arrived, 2 banks of desks in the London Control Centre on the second floor had already been requisitioned for what was then named Operation Carnforth. The weight of the importance of the defection of Orlov was evident to everyone when the MI6 Director General, known as C, had appeared in the room to be personally briefed on the latest developments. Agent Talgarth had been used as a go-between with Orlov in the following hours as the June daylight faded across the city. Using the cover of a follow-up meeting to approve her newspaper article, she had met Orlov in the Grosvenor House Hotel on Park Lane. The late-night emergency gas repairs on Reeves Mews, directly behind the hotel, were fictional and manned by MI6 agents who had blocked off the road and were waiting, ready to load their cargo into a bulletproof Volvo XC90 as soon as he appeared at the trade entrance on Park Street. At 10:23 p.m., Orlov was bundled out of the hotel and into the Volvo. Now, Gabby turns her head back towards the land on top of the white cliffs. It's the headlights of the Volvo with Orlov inside that she can see half a mile away, bobbing along the road towards her. The wind is more blustery as the car stops, and an MI6 agent in the front passenger seat steps out to open one of the rear doors. Gabby has never met Orlov, but she has spent 2 hours watching surveillance videos about him earlier today. He's an ordinary-looking man with black hair, not tall or particularly short. When he shakes her hand, his pale blue eyes don't display any fear or concern, she notices. Agent Talgarth is quite a different matter. As she emerges into the night on top of the cliffs, with her light brown hair tied back in a ponytail, she has to unfold her long legs to get out of the car. Her eyes betray excitement more than fear, although both are present. Orlov is keen to know more about what's going to happen. Despite his clothing being scanned on the journey down here for any bugging devices, Gabby declines to go into details about the plan just yet, until she understands more about what he expects and why he decided to make this move. Within 5 minutes, above the sound of the wind, the buzzing of a light aircraft rolls in across the water, and a Cessna CJ-4 appears a mile offshore. It circles once, then comes in from the west, and slowly descends towards the grass on the cliff top. The amount of space to land is severely limited, and the pilot has to use every trick he knows to slow his airspeed before the wheels touch the soil, and the plane comes to a standstill, 30 feet from a sheer drop down the cliffs to the rocks below. As he starts to taxi the Cessna around to be ready for takeoff as quickly as possible, the sound of rotors rises in the sky behind them. Gabby looks up and can see a red Robinson R-44 helicopter travelling at speed in their direction. "Back to the Volvo," she shouts to Talgarth, and the women both grab one of Orlov's arms, then start to run the 50 feet across the cliff to the car. The first burst of automatic fire comes a second later, before they've reached safety. "Keep going," shouts Gabby. The agent in the front seat bundles out and opens the door of the Volvo. Gabby and Talgarth have to nearly drag the Russian across the ground to get him to move faster. They reach the car and push him inside, before both follow him in. The second burst of fire rains down from the hovering helicopter, and the MI6 man outside is caught before he can take cover. He falls onto the bonnet, then tumbles earthward and hits the grass. "Have you only got handguns?" says Gabby to the driver. "3 SA-80s on the side compartments, ma'am." He refers to the standard British automatic weapon. Gabby raids the store and pulls out one of the guns. In the last half minute, the helicopter has flown out north and is now on its way back. Gabby opens the door and watches the craft as it approaches. It's lower this time, hoping for more impact from its attack. When it's 50 feet above her head, Gabby opens fire. She can hear the bullets pinging against the metal underbelly and keeps firing. She sprays the main rotor and the tail, but doesn't damage them enough to stop the machinery. But she does make the pilot fly off on another loop to escape her firepower. The sound of a second helicopter makes her swear under her breath. The Volvo door opens and Talgarth gets out with another of the SA-80s. "Aim for the rotors, Talgarth," she shouts, as the engine noise builds from the two machines in the air. The second pilot is more of a risk-taker and comes in low, but this proves to be his fatal mistake as Talgarth gets a clear shot into the side of his craft. He slumps forward and the helicopter lands at speed, carving out a long furrow in the grassland as it's forced to come to a halt. "We can use that, mum," shouts Talgarth, and they both look at the grounded helicopter. "With me," shouts Gabby. The two spies run towards the grounded Robinson R-44. Talgarth pulls the pilot out of the seat and jumps in. She turns the key to prime the fuel, then starts the rotor. The first helicopter is back for another run at the Volvo, as Talgarth raises her flying machine off the ground. They head out east, then turn backwards towards the first helicopter. Gabby leans against her straps and pushes the muzzle of the SA-80 out of her side window. Talgarth flies directly for the other craft, then turns away at the last moment, and Gabby pulls the trigger. The other craft takes evasive action and pulls up and out of range. Talgarth is coming around again when they see the helicopter turn south across the English Channel, and they give chase. With every second, the distance between the two is closing. Talgarth's piloting skills are better than their quarry's, and she reduces the strike distance to the helicopter's tail in front. Out here, half a mile from the White Cliffs, the night air is colder, and it cuts into Gabby's face as she leans out to take aim. She knows that the SA-80 can fire 400 meters, but she waits until they're well within range before squeezing the trigger. Her bullets make contact with the rear rotor, and she can see sparks in the night. Talgarth pushes the helicopter faster to further reduce the distance. Gabby fires again and sparks appear for a second time as the rotor gets showered. As they're both wondering if they've done enough, smoke starts to billow out of the helicopter ahead, and it begins to curve in the air on a descent into the water. They watch it plummet, then hit the English Channel below them, before the night is filled with the oranges and reds of its fuel tank exploding.
"Back to land, Talgarth,"
she says. They reach the cliff top and land near the Volvo. The injured agent is still on the ground, where the driver has been trying to help him.
"Reported on Oberon,"
says Gabby, referring to the MI6 operations system.
"You'll need to take him back to London and get a recovery team out here to clean up."
"I'll go back with him,"
says Talgarth.
"No, you're with me and Orlov. He needs protection, and you've been useful."
The Russian is helped across to the Cessna and loaded into the plane as the Volvo bumps away over the grass to the road. They take off into the night and head for France. Gabby goes forward to talk to the pilot about filing a new flight plan for their destination, and the Cessna turns eastward. She comes back into the cabin and sits opposite Talgarth.
"What's your name?"
she says.
"Ivy Brown, ma'am."
"Well, Ivy, you've been seconded into Operation Carnforth.
"Where are we going?"
Gabby drops her voice, as Orlov is only 10 feet away and watching the lights on the sea below them.
"Amsterdam,"
she says.
"We'll take him to a safe house in the city centre."
"How did they know we'd be on the cliffs, ma'am?"
says Talgarth, flicking her eyes up to Gabby.
"All spy agencies leak, Ivy. And they each have a different way of dealing with it. The French tend to kill their leakers. The Italians imprison them, and we let them go on leaking, but give them false information so they become unreliable sources for their foreign paymasters."
"Do you know who leaked this time?"
"I don't, but London will be following up."
"What happens after we get to Amsterdam?"
says Talgarth. "I'm only going to tell you our plans piecemeal, Ivy. That way you're protected."
"If I'm tortured, you mean?"
They lock their gaze for a moment.
"Just for your protection,"
she says quietly. The sound of Orlov's voice comes across the cabin. "I've heard of you," he says. Gabby walks over and sits in the seat next to him. "I'm honored to have one of MI6's best agents looking after me."
"What made you defect, Alexei?"
"My life was at risk. I've been in the SVR since its inception, and was even in the KGB for a year before it was dissolved. But long service doesn't carry any guarantee of avoiding a sell-by date."
"After you get settled, you'll be interviewed over the course of several weeks by MI6.
"I look forward to it."
"Was there anything that made you decide now that the time was right?" she says.
"Something came into my possession that gives me a bargaining chip," he says. "Something that the West will value."
"Are you looking for an unusual deal of some kind?"
"Just freedom, a cottage in Devon, roses to prune."
"But in exchange for everything you know," she says. "That's the deal. You don't need a bargaining chip. Your knowledge is your side of the agreement."
"I have access to X-ray scans for the T-99, the new secret Russian battle tank. It has the highest security around it. No details are discussed apart from in the design center in Moscow and the discrete production plant in Nijitajil."
"You can talk about that in the interviews," she says.
"Take this."
He hands her a key with the number 17 on it. "What is this?"
"The key to an airport locker in Prague. You'll find a sample of the scans of the tank, so you know I'm serious. I need money for them. I'll be a wanted man. I'll need security, and I'll need to maintain the lifestyle that I have in Moscow. My wife and children will need to be extracted from Russia. I'll need them with me."
"It'll all have to be discussed," she says. The lights of Schiphol Airport blaze on the horizon 10 minutes before the Cessna lands on the runway, and the pilot taxis to an unmarked white hangar on the southern perimeter of the site. As they approach, the vast doors start to slide open, and as soon as the plane is inside, the doors are rolled shut again to keep out the night. "Welcome to MI6 Processing Center 23, says Gabby to Talgarth as the door to the plane is opened from the outside.
Vast arc lamps make it feel like daytime inside the hangar. Despite it being nearly 4 a.m., there are 20 people waiting for their arrival, including David Averill, the MI6 head of station based in the British Embassy in Amsterdam. Gabby discusses the events in Dover with Averill, as the Russian is taken to a team of doctors who have set up a medical tent along one side wall. Orlov is asked to undress and given paper overalls to wear, while he is put through a series of scanners to detect any unwanted items, either attached to or embedded inside him. He has a CAT scan, then he's loaded into an MRI machine. After 40 minutes, Gabby walks to the medical team. "Did you find anything?" She addresses the leading doctor, Professor Dan de Jong. "He has a damaged right knee from an old injury, and he has some MRI shadows, but nothing significant for a man of 55. "Any tracking devices?" "There's a tube under the skin of his left arm." "Can you remove it?" "We'll operate. The team is prepping the temporary theatre at the back of the tent." "Do you know what's inside it?" "It's microscopic, an electronic gizmo. The MRI will have disabled it, but we'll get it out anyway." A nurse pulls the side of the tent open and tells de Jong that they're ready. Orlov is led away, and Gabby lets the medical team get on with their work. Dawn has started to inch up above the capital of the Netherlands, as Gabby, Orlov, and Talgarth are driven out of the airport compound in a dark blue Mercedes GLS SUV, with an MI6 field officer at the wheel and a second agent next to him. They are followed by an identical vehicle containing 3 armed security. The convoy heads east, then tracks north into the city centre. As the vehicles turn into Spuestraat, next to the neo-Gothic bulk of the Catholic Dominieskerk, the whole area is plunged into darkness. All of the lights on the buildings and street lights extinguish instantly. "Is that a power cut?" says Gabby. But before anyone answers, a black van with darkened windows pulls out in front of them from one of the parking places along the curb. "We have company," says the driver. At that moment, an ear-splitting explosion echoes around the tall townhouses on the street. Gabby looks back, and their protection vehicle is a ball of flame. A second black van accelerates from behind them. It avoids the burning Mercedes and pulls up 10 feet away. "Stay in the vehicle," says the driver, and he and the front seat passenger step outside, unholstering their handguns as they do so. All the doors on the black vans open at the same time, and 4 men emerge, 2 from each vehicle. The MI6 driver fires at one man. He hits his leg, and the man staggers against the side of the van. But a second man draws a knife and comes for the driver, swinging the blade to within an inch of his face. The attacker pushes again, and the blade draws blood on the driver's cheek. The other agent is attacked by the 2 men from the black van behind them. One grabs his arms, and the other repeatedly punches him in the stomach until he collapses. "I'm not having this," says Gabby, and she pushes out into the fight. She kicks out at one attacker, hitting his legs, then she high kicks to his torso. She grabs for his knife, but he's too quick, and brings it down on her hand, cutting a slice of skin. Her fingers tighten, and she lands a punch into the side of his head. He is off balance and crashes to the ground, but another man comes for her. She kicks him too, and he lashes out. He lands a fist to her nose, breaking the skin and showering her cheek with blood. She draws her Smith & Wesson, but another fist impacts her stomach. She is winded as the pain pushes up into her muscles, and she loses grip of her handgun. Talgarth emerges from the Mercedes too and fires at one man. He falls into the roadway before another man gets a clean and hard punch to Talgarth's face to stop her. One of the attackers stops at the rear door next to Orlov and fires at the window, showering the Russian inside with glass shards. Gabby pushes through her pain and runs at the man, but not before the attacker reaches inside the SUV, unlocks the door and grabs Orlov. The other attackers join him and form a protective ring around Orlov, with their handguns drawn. They drag the Russian to the van and throw him in through a side door. Gabby retrieves her handgun, but the attackers keep their weapons trained on her as they get back inside the rear vehicle. She fires into the tyres, but only hits one, before the black van screeches away into the dawn.